Committee meeting this morning. I'm joined by my friends, Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Alarcon, and we do have a quorum, Mr. City Attorney. So what I recommend we do initially is deal with, we've got 3 items on consent. If Anne Marie, you can read those items.
Sure. Item number 1 is in council June 3rd. It's a CDD report and resolution relative to authorization to issue up to $6 million in tax-exempt bonds by the California Municipal Finance Authority for the benefit of the St. John's Well Child and Family Center, Inc. And just so you know, the TEFRA hearing was held May 27th. The minutes have been provided to the clerk and no comments were received.
Okay, so on item 1, we'll adopt the CDD report and the resolution. Item 2.
Item 2, LAHD report and resolution and CAO report relative to authority to issue up to $12.2 million in tax-exempt multifamily mortgage revenue notes for the Canby Woods Senior Housing Project.
Okay, on that item, we'll adopt the CAO report. Item 3.
Item 3 is also in council June 3rd. It's the CRA report and joint resolution and CAO report relative to a public hearing, land use change, and disposition and development agreement with Exceptional Children's Foundation for the sale of CRA-owned historic building conversion to an adult special needs art center at 2616 South Hobart and 2611 South Harvard in the Normandy 5 redevelopment project area.
Okay. On Mr. Cardenas moves on that. Item 3 will adopt the CAO report. So that leaves us with items 4, 5, and 6, which, Mr. City Attorney, I would like to be able to take them all together if that meets your approval.
Okay.
Because they're all related, yes.
All right.
Item 4, CLA relative to a report back by the CLA and CAO on the 2011-12 37th program year Housing and Community Development Consolidated Plan, 4th Year Action Plan, and recommendations relative to reductions in funding. Item 5, CDD and CAO reports relative to results of the Day Labor Program request for proposals for program year 2011-12 and authority to execute agreements with selected service providers. Item 6, CDD and CAO reports relative to the results of the Domestic Violence Shelter Operations Program request for proposals for program year 2011-12 and authority to negotiate and execute agreements with 12 selected providers and an amendment to a contract with Commercial Programming Systems.
Okay. So with that said, I'm going to call some folk. We have some public comment. But before I get to public comment, I want to make it clear that where it relates to item 6, it is my intention to continue that item for 1 week and sort through, because I know there's some concerns. So I'd like to take an additional week to deal with that. I know we have people here from the public that have come to testify on item 6. You will be afforded the opportunity to testify. But I think maybe if we go back and spend a few, some more time, that I might be able to make it a little better. So that is my intention. But like I said, now I'm going to call for public comment. So I'll start with Raul Anorve. Please come forward. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Raul Añor. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute of Popular Education, Southern California. We operate 5 day labor centers, and I'm speaking on behalf of the cutbacks that we've been getting. Up to now, we have received 17% cuts. I was forced to...
I didn't hear you, Raul. How many, what was your...
17% of operating budget, and I was forced to lay off 2 people, and I was also forced to furlough 1 day a week, which means that further cuts is going to hurt the amount of work that we've been accumulating for so many years, where we can have a decent place where day laborers can congregate and have an official hiring site. We have cultivated the communities around those day labor centers, and an average, in good days, between 40 to 50% day laborers go to work on a daily basis. So any further cuts will really hurt our program, and I think it's in the best interest of the city to maintain our programs and continue operating, providing indispensable service for the communities.
Thank you, Raul. Julio Guardado?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Julio, del centro de trabajo.
His name is Julio. He's
West LA. Me parece de que quieren retirar el centro.
my name is Julio, and I represent the West LA Center, and it seems like they want to remove the center.
Y nosotros como trabajadores que pertenecemos a ese centro,
And
por
we as,
favor,
and we as the workers that belong to the center,
no lo quiten porque, pues sí, ya recortaron 1 o 2 días, entonces no queremos más recortes.
if
Por el bien de todos los trabajadores, queremos que lo mantengan como está.
we want the center to maintain as it is for the benefit of the workers that has been there for a number of years, so we ask you to not to move the center.
Ya cortaron de 2 o 1 día. Queremos que ya no lo corten, porque del trabajo del centro dependemos muchas familias.
I understand that there's 1 day cutback, and any further cuts will depend on many families that depend on the center.
De ese centro, casi por el 70, el 60% dependemos económicamente del centro, porque los patronos siempre llegan a buscar
About 60,
gente ahí de trabajo.
about 60 to 70% of the day laborers who come to the center depend on that center, and therefore our families also depend on those families, on that center.
Okay, this is all.
That is it. Thank you.
Okay, hold on 1 second, Mr. Cardenas. Well, before I acknowledge Mr. Cardenas, I want to say that we've just been joined by Councilmember Reyes. With that said, Mr. Cardenas.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the report that's before us today that we will be taking action on does not recommend any more cuts to your program.
Okay.
Even though there have been adjustments, the adjustments are not being made to your program as far as what we're looking at today. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys for taking your time to come out.
Gracias.
Okay, Roland Troop. Debbie Nelson and Toby.
Good morning, Chairman Wetson and fellow council committee members. My name is Ron Troop. I have been on the board at 1736 Family Crisis Center since 1979.
Don't age yourself.
And president since '83. I've also been very active in the domestic violence task force initiatives over the years and attended several meetings when our CEO, Karatikoff, was unavailable to attend. Over the years, we have taken the risky but necessary position to expand and open additional shelter programs to meet the critical needs of our citizens in Southern California. It takes a good 5 years to locate property, fundraise for capital, meet with locals, activists, political, police, potential neighbors, licensing, to get everyone on the same page in order to successfully open a new shelter or even expand an existing program into another location. So not only is it hard to open a program the right way, it takes time, in some cases as much as 5 years. Based upon the city monitoring of all shelter programs, we have had 16 years of excellent performance in 2 shelters that have been funded at $471,000. To have to close down one of these shelters will have a negative impact on our citizens. Let me turn the mic over to 2 of our senior directors, Toby Quintiliani and Debbie Nelson. Both are experts at 1736 Family Crisis Center. Both have their PhDs, and both have been with us for many years.
Okay.
Hello, council members. I am Toby Quintiliani, one of the senior directors from 1736.
Give me that last name again, but slow so I can,
Okay.
because if you notice, I didn't even try
You didn't
to
try
pronounce it. So give it to
It's
me.
Quintiliani.
Okay.
So it's phonetically correct. If you just look at it, it's okay. After 25 years of marriage, I can say it now.
Okay. Anyway, good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much. Council members, from the inception of this DVSO initiative, its purpose has been to establish and continue the highest performing programs and beds for domestic violence victims. And since that time, and for 16 years, we've operated 2 separate shelters that have been funded by this initiative with perfect performance programmatically and fiscally. As Mr. Troop said, our funding level is currently and has been for 16 years, $471,000 funding these 2 separate shelters, which means 2 separate freestanding homes that both run by separate staff, separate hotlines, and for separate clients, 20 beds each. Now, under this RFP, there were specific instructions that were both in the RFP and in the Q&A, and we followed those instructions exactly by putting in one proposal with 2 separate budgets. We were told that we could apply for 2 shelters by doing it that way, one proposal, 2 separate budgets, which we did for $275 each that would continue to fund our 2 shelters. Now, the information that was given to you by CDD is maybe slightly misleading because when you look at the chart, it says that we asked for $550, and it looks like that we got funded for $275, which is the max that they wanted to fund per agency. But in actuality, we were asking for $275 to keep both of our 2 shelters going, not $550 for one agency, but $275 each, just like we've done for 16 years. Now, if we only get funded for $275, this is going to force a closure of one of those 2 shelters. And let me reiterate, for 16 years we have been operating these...
No.
I went on.
I don't make you just stop.
I'm such a rule follower.
Yeah, the game isn't over.
Okay, so I guess you get that point,
So
that
just finish your-
this would force a closure. I just wanted to say we scored in some of the highest score. We had many, many agencies fall under us, but yet we only got funded for one. We don't want to have to close this other shelter.
No, I understand that. That's one of the reasons why I said earlier that it is my intention to kind of, go through, scrub this again for a week and hopefully come up with a better product by next Wednesday.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Debbie Nelson. As Ron stated, I'm the other senior director at 1736. And we'd also like to point out today that 1736 has been recognized by CDD as having best practices for both of our 2 shelters. We've been asked to train other DVSO providers at city meetings on operations and documentation procedures. These best practices are a direct result of our expertise working with the lowest functioning individuals living in our shelters. Our 2 shelter programs are specialized to service this population and provide the most comprehensive life-saving services. Our 2 programs have evolved over the years, taking into account the changing need of this population. To include services for our teens, specialized teen program services to teen boys ages 7 through 17 years of age, job training and placement, in-house legal services, specialized mental health services, and financial literacy, and many others. What is important for everyone to know is that this unique, specialized quality of care is what enables victims to succeed and achieve safe, independent, productive lives, which benefits not only their children, but our entire community. What will happen if you force a closure of one of the 2 shelters is that these citizens of the city of Los Angeles will be forced to be displaced and lose these vital, specialized services that set us apart from other domestic violence programs. We ask that you consider both of our 2 shelters essential to this community and to the victims who are receiving services, as well as to those who have not yet reached out for help. Thank you.
No, thank you. And, I have a long history with 1736. It goes back to the mid-'90s, and I would not argue with anything that you guys have said. I know that you provide a phenomenal service to the community, and I want to thank you for coming down. Now, I will get to my surprise panelists here, but I want to call Vitelio Aguilar Jr. Are you Lisa?
No, I'm just standing here for support. I'm the new my seventh day on the job, their new resource development director. So trust me, my name is Susan Adelman. Next time I'll be speaking. So I'm just lending my support. Thank you.
So you've been here 1 week, and all of a sudden they just throw you at the.
I'm just about ready to get there. I can tell you some stories.
Okay, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Vitelio Aguilar. I'm the Volunteer and Outreach Coordinator for 1736 Family Crisis Center. I'm going on my 12th year, and I just wanted to reiterate the importance of having our shelter programs continue to be able to provide these services necessary for our community members. As an outreach coordinator for the last 12 years for 1736 Family Crisis Center, I can tell you that the information we provide to the community to let them know that services like ours exist are very important. Every day we meet new family members or new families who have members that may need these type of services, and we're unaware that these services existed. And we've been very fortunate to be able to provide the services for the last 16 years in the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Anthony? Good morning.
Morning, sir. Sorry.
Relax. Relax. It's okay. Take your time.
I was a domestic violence victim, and I'm sorry. It happened January 2010, and I don't have an insurance and everything, and I was admitted in Harbor Hospital in Carson, and I cannot come home in Carson because that's where everything happened. And because I don't have insurance, the doctor told me I have to go to shelter, and I don't have any idea about shelter and so many things about government situation. And so the social worker of the harbor helped me to find the shelter for 1736, and I called them and I told them I don't know where to go, and the doctor told me I have to leave. So they admitted me right away. They helped me. They sent me a taxi all the way here in LA, and I'm only 5 days in the hospital, and I had so many surgery at the time, so I kind of like, I don't know. So they helped me from day one that I was there, and I cannot even take a shower or anything, so, because I have all this cut. So they all helped me out, and I've learned so many government help that I don't know that it exists. So they even helped me with legal problems, with mental problems, physical problem, and some therapy that I have to go every day, and I'm just so confused that day. So they told me maybe we have this computer program that I have to go every day to, just to straighten up whatever happened to me. So it's a very big help for me to start all over and to realize the help I received. And since then I stayed there until July 2010. I went there January and stayed there until July 2010 also, because I feel like I need help outside too, is start all over again. But they did help me a lot to like accept what happened to me, and it's kind of like, I don't know, So I told them maybe I need to go somewhere too and start all over again. And up to now, I'm still with them. I told them, don't leave me or don't drop me, because I moved all the way to San Pedro, because it's kind of like cheap over there, and also victim of crime helped me out. And I'm still going to the 1736 to have my case manager and therapy up to now, and I'm still doing that. And it's really a big help because I'm by myself, and I really need somebody to help me out.
Well, Miss Anthony, we all want to thank you for coming down. We know that it's a, physically and mentally a very emotional issue that you're dealing with, and please, you don't have to apologize for that. But it may sound stupid, but things will get better, especially as long as you receive the services from 1736 and you follow programs that they provide for you. This too will pass. But anyway, we do want to thank you for coming down. Again, where it relates to this issue, we will scrub this another week and see what we can do. But I thank you so much, and I will keep my fingers crossed, hoping that things will get better for you. I'm sure that it will. Thank you for coming down. We've just been joined by Council Member Perry. Okay, so now that was the last public comment card where related to those specific items. So I'll ask the staff to come back. And Mr. Garcia, when I finish the item, I will give you your opportunity to speak on general public comment. Okay, so now, items 4 through 6.
Anne Marie Sauer with the CLA and Katrina Unzicker with the CAO, and we're here on item 4. The consolidated plan. In March, the council adopted a CDBG budget that included an entitlement of $71.6 million and total resources of $94.5 million. And when this committee considered the con plan in March, there were several priorities identified: the family source centers, homeless services, AIDS prevention, and domestic violence shelters. As you may recall, there was a lot of uncertainty at that point regarding the federal budget. And in April, we received entitlement estimates from HUD that included a 16% reduction in CDBG funds. On Friday, HUD advised the city of its final entitlement of $65.2 million, which is approximately $6.5 million less than the original estimate adopted by council. Attachment A of our report provides a breakdown of the sources and our funding recommendations. And it's important to note that the recommended allocations represent full-year funding and do not include a phased approach. Our office has reviewed prior year unspent funds and received input from CDD, Housing, and LAHSA regarding reductions in funding and additional reprogramming options. An additional $3.4 million in program and administrative savings was identified for reprogramming in the con plan, and that's an increase from $6.2 million to $9.6 million, excuse me. So as a result, our total CDBG resources only decreased by $1.6 million from $94.5 million to $92.8 million. Unfortunately, this reduction had to be taken in public services and administration because of the federal spending caps.
Again, the impact on the caps is about...
Excuse me for 1 second.
Excuse me.
Sharon, that's 1 second and it's driving me crazy.
Sorry. Is that better?
That's better. Go ahead.
First things first. As Anne Marie mentioned, the impact on the caps is approximately $300,000 for the public services cap, and it's about a $1.3 million reduction for the administrative and planning cap. All the reductions to the budget were taken in those two categories. The reductions had to occur in those categories once again because of the federal spending caps in both those areas. Wherever possible, our offices retain the originally approved council action amounts. Where that was not possible, we returned to our previous recommendations from the March 1 CLA-CAO report. The revised line item budget appears as attachment A. Attachment B shows the reprogramming amounts that we used, and attachment C shows the sources of funds to the budget and the way the caps were calculated. Relative to savings identified for the budget, $2.7 million is attributable to those identified in the CAO's year-end report that was heard in Budget and Finance Committee yesterday. For the purposes of this report, the adjustment to this general fund reimbursement is a one-time event. Further discussion of that issue will be handled under separate cover in a future CLA-CAO report. And for now, we're recommending that our offices meet with HUD and CDD about how to handle these kinds of related cost reimbursements. And then there's two housekeeping items in the report. One is that we recommend that departments be given authority to negotiate and execute contract authorities up to the amounts referenced in Attachment A, the original concern where we'd have to implement a phased approach or that we may have cuts in the future is now null and void due to the fact that we now have our final allocation. And then finally, a few Fund 100 transfers are included where departments need them in order to finish the fiscal year on budget, and those transfer amounts are not impacted by any of the reductions that are proposed in the report.
Okay. Members, questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Reyes?
It's for item 4 as well, or?
Yeah, any of the items.
Oh, okay.
4, 5, 6, right?
The,
Or wait, were you going to do separate, you want to just stay on item 4 for right now?
Well, we are
Or-
not here on 5 and 6, but we have other.
So we'll just stay on item 4. Who's here for 5 and 6? Nobody.
I'm hoping somebody raised their hand. I know I had that.
Anne Marie, nobody raised their hand, but anyway, so let's deal with item 4. Go on, Mr. Reyes.
we can do this.
I believe we can. Yes, we can.
The, when we look at how we were moving monies and understanding the factors in how we were determining citywide programs and the reduction of funding, what factors were being considered? How was that being assessed from a citywide point of view?
For the citywide ones, specifically under admin, is that what you're talking about? Basically, I mean, sort of throughout the whole plan, because we didn't have to touch anything in the middle with both public services and admin and planning, we tried to stick as much as possible with what the council adopted, and then where that wasn't possible, we went back to our original recommendations. In the case of the feasibility study, it was a new item that came in after the, it came in later in the process. It was not something that was originally in the con plan, so anything that, like in that case, because it was new, we weren't able to fund that. We stuck with what had originally been included.
One of the objectives, I would assume, would be for job creation and how we can move monies to stimulate jobs. And the feasibility study inherent in its purpose is to establish and create jobs. And so from a priority point of view, I would assume that's what we would want to do for the city, is create jobs and leverage these funds. And that's what the feasibility study is connected to that stated purpose for the city jail. I do have an action item that I'd like to present, but I want to make sure it's at, I guess, towards the end, Mr. Chair. But for an action item, would I want me to stress that to the, right now, or do you want me to do that
I
at the
think
end?
where it relates to your concern that it might, I think it's better if we just take an action, Mr. Attorney, that puts the, what's the figure again?
It's 50,000.
I would recommend that we put that back in, and then we would just have to, the department would have to absorb it. So would that, you'd be comfortable with that, Mr. Ray?
Yes, that's fine.
All right.
So
Okay.
just to clarify, so when you say the department, is that, you mean CDD?
Yes, CDD.
No, from you personally.
Just want to make sure. we're all on
Anne
the same
Marie
page.
Department.
Right. Okay. Understood.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, and also miraculously, we have individuals that just came, out of thin air to respond to items 5 and 6, and I'm glad that you magically appeared. Good morning. It's good to see both of you again.
Shall we proceed?
Yeah, please.
Good morning. Manny Chavez with CDD. On item 5 are the day labor program funding recommendations related to an RFP that we released a few months back. For a number of years, we have not procured the services of day labor providers, so to ensure open competition in the process, we did release an RFP. Currently, there are 3 day labor program providers. The RFP specified 8 locations where we were desiring to continue the services that are currently provided. Only the 3 current providers did apply, although there was express interested by a number of organizations in providing such services. Ultimately, they did not submit the proposals. The targeted areas for services are downtown Los Angeles, Hollywood, West LA, Harbor City, Cypress Park, North Hollywood, Van Nuys, and Westlake. The funding recommendations before you actually fund those 3 organizations to serve those 8 distinct areas of the city. The baseline funding for each is $119,000. However, we also build in facility costs and add that to the $119,000. So the ultimate amounts do vary in terms of the actual recommendations. We did, of course, receive a slight reduction in funding from last year, but nevertheless, we feel that these organizations can continue to provide the day labor services. So what we're requesting today is the authority to move these recommendations and to negotiate and execute contracts with the 3 designated providers.
Any questions? Okay, well, I want to thank all you for coming. I want to thank the CLA's office, CAO's office for, I mean, we were put in a last-second spot, and you guys were able to go out and identify funds, which for the most part keep the programs whole or close to that, and I commend you for that. So thank you. So I would recommend that we move item 4, and item 4, is that the item we amended?
Correct.
Okay, so we move item 4, or adopt the CLA, the CAO and CLA report as amended. Item 5, we adopt the CAO report, and item 6, we will continue to next week. Okay, then without objection, that'll be the order. Where'd Mr. Garcia go? Could somebody do me a favor and see if he's in the hall?
Oh, okay. So it's probably...
Well, let's tell him it's showtime. Anybody watch the basketball game last night?
I missed it, man. It was good.
I'm protesting. I refuse to watch when the Lakers aren't in.
Oh, I get that.
So,
The Heat.
okay, now we have a, okay, now, Mr. Garcia, hold on one second. So, Mr. Cardenas is pulling for the Heat.
Yeah, you bet.
Mr. Alarcon?
Heat or Dallas?
Dallas? Mr. Reyes?
Tejano.
Yeah. Heat.
There you go.
Miss Perry?
Well, you know, LeBron, Cleveland.
Exactly. There you go.
You know, get over it.
Okay.
So he left, so what?
All right.
If he gets a ring.
I would like to see Dallas win because I like the owner, but I think that the Heat will win. With that said, Mr. Garcia, it is a wimpy one. No, it is, isn't it? I'll just be a wimp. Okay, Mr. Garcia, welcome.
Thank you very much, member of the Committee, Housing Committee. I want to ask the city to please consider to add a word to the commission, to the housing mission statement. The housing mission statement indicates that it's affordable. But we're living today in the 21st century, where it's not accessible. I'm asking here today at this community to please add to the mission statement affordable and accessible, because one cannot be without another. And it's true, because people with disability are in the lower end, They cannot afford But how can they afford something that is not accessible? Something, so please, I'm asking here to allow the change that is needed to be a 21st century LA housing development so that everybody can live in affordable housing and accessible housing in Boyle Heights and other areas that are in this area where I work. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I see you at the City Council.
No, Mr. Garcia, I just want to tell you thank you. Hadn't seen you for a while. You're a class act, and I appreciate your activism very much. I just want you to know that. Thank you. Okay, Anne Marie, any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
Then this committee's adjourned. Thank everyone for coming.